Welcome into another edition of the BTN Hockey Report alongside former Ohio State Buckeye Paul Caponigri. I'm Rick Pizzo. Cappy, hard to believe every team in the league now with just 8 regular season games left to play, basically boiling down to 1 month left in the regular season.
I think it's that time of year. All the teams now are in the full glow of the regular season. Now everyone now is going on. The top of the division is going against the bottom. It should be interesting, make for an interesting weekend.
Obviously, just one automatic bid, which will be sealed up at the Big Ten Tournament in March in St. Paul. Other teams, though, can get in via the at-large selection, which comes through the pairwise rankings. Historically, the top 13 or 14 teams will get in, as long as nothing crazy happens in terms of automatic qualifiers in other leagues. Right now, Michigan looks to be very solid at number 6 in the pairwise and 6th in most of the national rankings. Penn State right on that cusp of the 14th spot, while Minnesota has fallen to 22nd. Remember, the Gophers have lost 3 of their last 4 after being swept in the North Star College Cup and then splitting this past weekend with Penn State. So we start at the top of the league, and while Michigan and Minnesota, Paul, share the Big Ten lead, 27 points each, there's no doubt that right now Michigan is the top dog in the league in terms of national perception.
They are, and I was able to see them a couple times this weekend, and you saw not a tale of two teams, but Michigan is, I think, by far now the top team. When you look at the goal scoring, coupled with their defense, I think their defense's depth has gotten much better, and then with Racine back in net, it's been really great, but it starts with that CCM line, and it's fun to watch those guys because every shift you are holding your breath watching them, and as an opposition, I'm sure the coaches are watching them, like, what are they going to do next? Because every time they're on the ice, they are a huge threat.
Yeah, that line of Connor, Comfer, and Mott has been so good as a whole this year. Mott number 1 in the nation in goals per game, Connor number 2. But I know you look at Mott as more than just a goal scorer. You've had a chance to watch him in person each of the last 2 weekends, and you've come out of those games thinking to yourself about what an all-around player he's become.
It is, and I think the goal scoring has kind of come along for him. He's been always known as a guy that could block shots, use his speed and all that, and I think he's found his scoring touch on this line, a little more confidence. I mean, he is making no mistake. When he gets breakaways and grade A scoring chances, he is not missing right now. And, that might slow down at some point. I mean, it's very hard to keep up a pace. He's got goals in 9 straight games. He's got 25 goals in 25 games, which is crazy. But blocking shots, Red Berenson talks about him being a complete player all the time. And he really does complete that line. Comfer's got all the assists. Connor kind of does both. He's got the power play, but he's great on the power play. But Mott kind of does everything very well, and I think that bodes well for that line and will keep them going consistently when you have a guy like that can do everything.
We've seen opposing teams try to be more physical with that line. Obviously, the big hit that earned Andrew Sturtz a 1-game suspension on Tyler Mott. He's a tough kid as well. Came back later in that game despite bleeding all over the ice and scored an empty netter to seal Michigan's win over Penn State at Madison Square Garden. You did mention Steve Racine, and he's been a big factor because the goaltending has been a question mark for this program over the last couple of years. But Racine, one of Big Ten hockey's top 3 stars, along with Mott this past week. He had 71 saves this past weekend against Michigan State because the Spartans had a really good offensive weekend, and Racine was terrific. There's no question, Paul, if Michigan is to make a deep postseason run, it's not Comfer, it's not Connor, it's not Mott as the most important player. It's the guy between the pipes.
It is, and you as a former goalie would know that. But he is. We've talked a lot. We've talked negatively about Steve Racine because he has not been up to task in the past, but over the last couple of weeks, he's really shored up that goaltending for Michigan. And Red Berenson is notorious for loving to find one goalie and ride that guy, and I think he's found that in Steve Racine. Only time will tell in the postseason and whatnot if he can carry that, but right now he's been playing really solid. And you look at the game on Friday, they gave up 41 shots. And, Michigan State's on a high-power offense, but he was there and ready. And, it was a power play goal in overtime that did them in. So, they lost Friday, but he has been a key factor in them progressing to where they are right now.
While we know the Wolverines are solidly into the NCAA Tournament as far as the at-large picture is concerned right now, Penn State and Minnesota still with some work to do over the season's final month. They played this past weekend at Mariucci. Turned out to be a split. Minnesota really dominant in Game 1. 4-1 was the final. The Gophers did outshoot Penn State in Game 2, but Penn State got some goals. 5-3 was the final in that one as they earned the weekend split. When you come out of this series, neither team able to move up or down much in the pairwise, but it does set up the rest of the regular season. We had a chance to catch up with Minnesota's leading scorer, Hudson Fasching, and ask him what the focus is going to be for the Maroon and Gold as the final 4 to 5 weeks of the regular season begin to wind down.
We want to make sure that we can keep it, just between us and Michigan. And if we can do that, we would feel comfortable, going into playoffs. And so, going down the stretch, if we can, find a way to make sure it's just us two at the end, and make sure we're top two. Obviously, we're shooting for the win. We want to win the Big Ten with everything we got. But to feel comfortable, I feel like we at least got to be in the top two.
They are the top two right now. They play their final 2 games of the regular season in Minneapolis, February 25th and 26th. You see the 6-point separation between the Wolverines and Gophers down to 3rd place Penn State, and obviously then a huge drop-off to the bottom 3 teams in the league, Ohio State, Michigan State, and Wisconsin. Those 3 squads absolutely have to win the automatic bid at the Big Ten Tournament to have any chance of getting in to the NCAAs. When you look at what Penn State and Minnesota are dealing with right now, and we'll start with Minnesota at Ohio State this coming weekend, you could make the argument that for the Gophers, it's almost a scenario where they have to win out. And they certainly have to take care of business, Paul, in their 6 games against those teams that are toward the bottom of the Big Ten standings, which we just showed.
Yeah, you saw and you heard Hudson Fasching talking about they want to stay with Michigan. And if they want to get back up, they want to have a backup plan. If not winning the Big Ten, you want to get up in the pairwise standings. And to do that, you are going to have to make a run of 4 to 5 game winning streak. And by doing that, you're going to have to beat those teams, whether it's at home or on the road. You're going to have to beat Ohio State, Michigan State, and Wisconsin. They're on your schedule. Those are must-win games if you have those expectations, which we just saw from Hudson Fasching. That's what he has.
At Ohio State again this weekend, the Friday night game, 6:30, puck drop right here on BTN. As for Penn State, they travel as well to Michigan State. Remember how front-loaded their home schedule and back-loaded the road schedule was for the Nittany Lions. And I'm not sure that Penn State is really catching Michigan State at a very good time as far as the Nittany Lions are concerned. Jake Hildebrand starting to play a little bit better, look like the guy we saw the last couple of years. And this offense really started to click. It was only a split against Michigan this past weekend, but they peppered Steve Racine.
They did, and seeing both games, I saw a better Michigan State team. There were some instances on Saturday. They had a couple 2-on-1s. They hit some posts. Those go in. That's a different game on Saturday. It wasn't a dominant performance by Michigan, but like you said, they're getting better. They're back to almost where I thought they would be for the season. So it is such a fine line right now with wins, losses, and ties. It's going to be very interesting to see how that plays out.
Talked about the fact that Minnesota and Michigan had that late February series. How about the last weekend of the regular season? Could be absolutely huge. That's the last 2 games of the regular season between Penn State and Michigan. Remember, you can check us out on Facebook, on YouTube, or on BTN.com, Twitter page as well. For Paul Caponigri, I'm Rick Pizzo as we say goodbye to another edition of the BTN Hockey Report.